Welcome to the deep dive, where we dive deep into fascinating topics. So this time, we're peeling back the layers on this career, one you might not have thought about much before: floor and wall coverings specialist seller.
Yeah, and trust me, it's a lot more interesting than it might sound at first.
I think you're right. We're going to get past those kind of basic job descriptions, like really figure out what skills this career needs, what are the unexpected perks. And for that, we're using RoleCatcher. All right, first things first. Is this job really just about knowing, like, all the differences between your grout and your laminate?
Well, see, and that's what makes it so interesting. Okay, product knowledge, sure, it's important, but role catcher really stresses that specialist part of the title.
Yeah.
So think about it more like being a consultant. You're the one guiding people through what can be a pretty overwhelming process. It's not just like, here's some tiles, here's some carpet.
Hmm.
You're helping people make their dream spaces, a reality.
Okay, so almost like a design therapist, right? Helping people with like all those renovation anxieties. But really, what does that actually look like day to day?
Okay, so picture this. A couple walks in, totally overwhelmed,
Mm.
right? Because there are just so many choices for flooring, especially for a big project like a kitchen. They might have some idea of what they want, but to actually turn that vision into, the actual kitchen, that's where you come in. You're not just like pointing them to the priciest hardwood. You're thinking about their lifestyle, their budget, even their like overall design aesthetic for their home.
So less of a sales pitch then, more like, I don't know, matchmaking.
Exactly. Matchmaking, I like that. You're matching people to materials, to designs that really click with them. And it's not just houses either. Think about like advising a business owner who needs durable flooring, but it's got to look good too, right? Their storefront is important. Or maybe you're helping a contractor pick the right tile, but it's for a hotel lobby, so it's high traffic.
Speaking of, how's the job market look for someone who wants to get into this?
Well, RoleCatcher, they're pretty optimistic. They say there's steady demand both in housing and construction. I mean, there'll always be some ups and downs tied to the economy, but overall, it seems like a pretty solid field.
That's good news for anyone who loves that new construction smell, right? But okay, let's be real. Typical day on the job. Is it all showroom consultations and design brainstorming?
Well, imagine this. You're on your feet most of the day, probably in a retail setting. Could be a small shop, independent, or part of a bigger home improvement center. And you're interacting with customers constantly, answering questions, showing them products.
So comfy shoes are a must, but it's not all well face to face, right? Tech's got to play a role, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really cool. RoleCatcher actually talks about how, get this, virtual reality and augmented reality are changing the game.
Wait, VR and AR for flooring. Tell me more.
Okay, so picture this. A customer, they just can't picture how a certain hardwood floor would actually look in their living room. But with VR or AR, boom, headset on, now they can walk on that floor, see how the light hits it, get a real sense of the texture, the color.
Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing. I talk about a powerful sales tool. Like you're giving them a window into, I don't know, an alternate reality where their Reno dreams have already come true. But seriously, to thrive in that environment, to work with all this new tech, what skills does someone actually need? I feel like it takes a special kind of person.
You're right, it does. It takes a real mix of skills to be great at this. And some of them, they might surprise you. Like, sure, a passion for design, that's fantastic. But RoleCatcher, their data actually says that most people doing this, they don't have some big fancy design degree.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying to be successful here, you don't need to be like the next big interior design guru.
Not at all. It's much more about connecting with people, really getting what they need, and being that guide to the best solution. It's kind of like design expertise, but with a big chunk of, that emotional intelligence.
So people skills are just as crucial as knowing like your porcelain from your ceramic.
Exactly. Communication, being able to really listen, those are key. Remember, you're building relationships, you're fielding questions all day, and sometimes you got to deal with, that tricky customer. Remember that couple we were picturing before? The ones trying to pick out their kitchen flooring? Imagine now they're on a super tight budget and they're stuck between two options.
Ooh, yeah, I can see it. The tension's thick enough to cut with a tile cutter.
Right. You got to be able to handle those talks smoothly, patiently, make sure they feel heard, not just, talked at. That's where the soft skills really come in. And when RoleKitcher dug into the specifics, they found persuasion is big, obviously,
Right.
but also service orientation, active listening, and even negotiation.
Makes sense. It's not just presenting options, it's really getting their needs, their budget, and helping them walk out with what's truly best for their space. And hey, with VR and AR in the mix now, you'd also need to be comfortable using those tools, right? Show the customers all the possibilities tech can offer.
For sure. It's this interesting combo of those classic sales skills, but you got to be forward thinking too, tech savvy. And speaking of, how things progress, let's talk about the career path itself. This is exciting. RoleCatcher, they lay out these different growth stages, starting as a sales associate and going all the way up to
Yeah.
sales manager. They even break down what you'd usually be doing at each level.
Okay, now this is what I love to see because it shows how this can become a real long-term career, you know? So you're just starting out, sales associate level. What's a typical day look like then?
So according to RoleCatcher, you're the one greeting people as they come in, helping them find specific things, giving them all that product info. You'd also be handling inquiries, complaints, even returns sometimes.
Right, so a solid mix of customer interaction, but also you gotta problem solve a bit right from the get-go.
Oh, and I bet there's a fair amount of organizing those gorgeous tile and carpet samples. Am I right?
You know it. But then as you get more experience, more knowledge, you might move up to a sales representative role.
So at that level, what changes? More responsibility, more pressure to close deals.
Yeah, that's where your focus shifts more towards building relationships with customers and maintaining them too. You'd be doing product presentations, really showcasing, the cool features and benefits of different floor and wall coverings, using that expertise to help them decide.
Okay, so it's more of that consultant role we talked about earlier, where you really become a trusted advisor to your customer.
Exactly. And of course, you're working to negotiate and close those sales, but always, always making sure those customers are confident and happy with what they choose. Because happy customers, well, they tell their friends, they tell their family. That's gold in this business.
Happy customers, happy life.
Yeah.
You got it. Now from there, you could climb that ladder to a senior sales executive position.
Okay, senior sales executive. That has a nice ring to it. So what's that like? You leading a team now, crushing sales targets, jet setting between showrooms.
Uh-huh. Well, the jet setting, maybe that depends on the company, but you're not far off. At this point, it's not just about your own clients anymore. It's about leading and managing a whole team of sales reps.
So now all those leadership skills come into play. Mentoring, motivating, making sure the team hits those targets, maybe a little friendly competition to keep things interesting.
Right. And you're getting more involved in the strategy side of things, too.
Yeah.
Developing sales strategies, putting them into action, all to drive revenue growth for the company.
It does sound like a really natural progression for someone who's, got that go-getter energy, someone who thrives in a fast-paced environment. But it's not all about just hitting the numbers, right? You'd still need to have a pulse on what customers are looking for, what the latest trends are, all that.
You're absolutely right. You're responsible for staying ahead of the curve, spotting new product opportunities, maybe even working with the marketing team on, like, promotional campaigns and stuff. And then finally, you might just reach the top of that mountain, become the sales manager.
All right, sales manager, you're the one calling the shots now. What's that like? More meetings, bigger budgets, tougher decisions.
As sales manager, you're responsible for the big picture. You're setting the overall sales strategies, the goals for the entire team. You need to really deeply understand the market, who the competition is, what customers are looking for. You're going to be analyzing sales performance, forecasting those future trends, basically making the decisions that impact the entire department.
So it's really amazing to see how much responsibility, how much variety you can get in this career path. It's like you could start helping someone pick out the perfect bathroom tile and end up creating the sales strategy for a whole region. But with great power and all that. I mean, it can't all be easy, right? Every job has its downsides. What are some of the challenges of being a floor and wall covering specialist seller?
Well, we touched on it before, but it can be pretty physically demanding. You're on your feet a lot. You might be lifting heavy samples, moving furniture sometimes. It's not like you're sitting at a desk all day.
Yeah, those comfy shoes, like we said, non-negotiable. And I imagine like any retail job, you're going to get those customers, the demanding ones, the ones who can't make up their mind. You'd really need to be able to handle those situations well. Keep your cool.
Oh, for sure. And with this job specifically, it's so important to stay updated, like know the latest trends, the newest product info, all that. Because the thing is, the world of floor and wall coverings, it's constantly changing. New materials pop up, new styles, new tech. You almost have to be a design enthusiast in a way, always keeping up with what's new, what's hot in the industry.
Can't just coast on what you learned 5 years ago. You got to be learning, adapting all the time. But even with all that, there's got to be some serious perks to this kind of work, right? What does RoleCatcher highlight as some of the upsides?
Well, besides, potentially getting to work with beautiful stuff all day, designs, materials, all that, one of the best perks is flexibility. See, store hours can be all over the place, especially in this kind of specialized retail, so you're more likely to get a flexible schedule.
Wait, flexibility and retail, those two words, they don't usually go together. How does that work?
Right. Like maybe you work weekends, but then you get a weekday off. Or you can like structure your day to fit in other stuff.
Now, that would be huge for someone who, really needs a less traditional schedule. Okay, but let's talk everyone's favorite, money. What can someone in this field realistically expect to make?
Well, according to RoleCatcher's data, the average salary range is somewhere between $25,000 to $40,000 per year. And that's just the average. So as you get more experience under your belt, as you move up into those senior roles, the earning potential, it can really shoot up.
Not bad at all, especially considering you don't necessarily need like a 4-year degree to even get started.
Exactly. And remember, we're talking sales here. So often you've got commission opportunities on top of that. The sky's the limit if you're good at what you do. If you're hitting those targets, exceeding expectations, those commissions, they add up fast.
So you get to like flex your creative muscles, help people make their dream spaces a reality, and you have the potential to make a really good living. This has been so eye-opening, this whole deep dive. Honestly, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what it really takes to be a floor and wall covering specialist seller. So for someone listening out there, someone who's really thinking, hey, maybe this is for me, what would you say is the absolute most important thing to keep in mind?
For me, it all comes back to this. Do you really love design? Like, does it excite you to help people create spaces that they absolutely love? Because if you've got that genuine enthusiasm, it's going to show when you're talking to those customers. And are you willing to put in the work, Be dedicated to customer service, to always learning new things. Those are the things that'll really set you up for success in this field.
It's so much more than just knowing your way around a tile display. You got to be a problem solver, a design enthusiast, a people person, all in one.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a job that, it ticks a lot of boxes.
It really does. We've gone deep on the day-to-day realities, the surprising skills you might need, and even how this role can grow into a whole career. It's not without its challenges, of course, but for the right person, someone who's truly passionate about design, about creating these beautiful, functional spaces for other people, there are some amazing rewards waiting. And hey, you never know, maybe one of you listening right now, you'll be the next rising star in the whole world of floor and wall coverings. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into a career path you might never have considered before. Until next time, happy learning.